I'm Barbara,
And I'm Mark.
and we run Wicky Design. It's a branding and web design company. We have clients from all over the world.
Yeah, she deals a lot more like the design work, and I hope all the development, the hosting, and stuff like that.
Awesome. I'll quickly introduce myself too. I'm Laylee, and I'm one of the corporate journalists for Virtual Post Mail. The first question is, what did you do before starting Wicky Design?
I work basically doing the same thing that we do now, just for a bunch of different small businesses.
Yeah, and I was on the other side. I worked a big corporate job doing web development and actually 3D animation for a really big engineering firm for almost 15 years. So I went from the corporate world into basically like the freelance world, and then now we run the business together.
Awesome. That's so cool. So what inspired you guys to start Wicky Design?
I think it was just time to go out on our own. We had been basically doing what we do now for other companies, and it was time to do it for ourselves.
Yeah, and I would add, yeah, we just were tired of working for other people, and we saw that we had the opportunity to work for ourselves, so we took the risk and we just did it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely a big dive and just taking that risk. So it's so cool that you guys are actually able to do that. Now that you've been running Wiki Design for a few years, what has been the best part of running it?
I think that we get to do it on our own terms. We get to set the schedule. We get to decide who we want to work with, how we want to run things. When you're working for somebody else, you have to do what they want. So you don't get to necessarily have that input. So it's nice to be able to do things the way we want to do them.
Yeah, and I would add that, yeah, being able to pivot and change what you want to do, it's freedom basically. Especially in a corporate environment, you're stuck to one job, one responsibility for some people for their whole lives. I think this is one of the biggest opportunities that we can just pivot and do whatever we want.
You guys kind of touched on what made you move into starting Wiki Design, but what made you both decide to go fully remote?
Again, I think it was just the right time to do it. There was no reason why we couldn't, and we both like to travel a lot. So it was an opportunity to do a lot of traveling by working remote. We had everything set up in a way that there was no reason that we couldn't have done it.
So we're based out of the Philadelphia area, and we would have some clients we would meet up with, but we found out that the majority of our clients weren't local based at all. So it's kind of like how I think a lot of things have changed. You don't really need to be tied to a physical location anymore. In a lot of industries, it doesn't matter really. So yeah, we just kind of ran the numbers and figured, hey, let's do it for a while and see what happens.
It really was just kind of like, it was an easy decision. We're like, well, we could stay here or we could travel. Why not travel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to, post-COVID times, would love to start traveling again.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right now we really can't. Eventually, when things get back to normal.
Yeah, so we were fully remote. We were planning to do it for a year, about 6 or 7 months, 8 months almost, and then COVID kind of happened and kind of put us back here in the Philly area. So yeah, long story short, we set up a new home base here outside of Philly, and we're looking to hit the road again in the near future. Awesome. Might not be so full time like it was, but we're going to definitely still be working remote a lot of the time.
We're trying to get back into it as some of the restrictions are eased and things kind of get back to normal, but it's so up in the air right now with everything.
But this downtime allowed us to, we did a lot of decision making. We changed a lot of things around our business, and we are kind of pivoted, and we're going to look to focus more on creating educational videos and content around that in the future. So we're opening more up to video in the very near future. Right now, yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting. Would you say, since you were able to move fully remote 6 to 7 or 7 to 8 months before COVID started, was the transition not too difficult since you didn't have to move from like a set office space back to like a completely virtual environment the way many people did?
Probably the hardest thing was figuring out some of the logistics, like the mail, figuring out how to do that, and figuring out car registration and like stuff like that, where it's like you have to have an address. So actually your service helped us like quite a bit with all that stuff.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's definitely what we want to hear. So that's awesome. In terms of going fully remote, what were the biggest challenges of being a digital nomad and running your remote business?
I think scheduling
Hmm.
was the hardest, especially because of the different time zones when you're traveling. So one week we're in Eastern, and then the next we're in Central. So we have to make sure that our calendars reflect Central time, so we're not taking calls at like 7 a.m. or
Hmm.
stuff like that. So that was, I actually messed up one time, and I did have to do that. I was like, oops, I scheduled that wrong. But that's all stuff that we kind of learned as we went and how to like figure that
And
out.
then we also kind of learned that, so we would have what they call like travel days. If we would be on the road for a whole day, we would
Okay.
have to learn how to schedule around that. And
Mhm.
then any other kind of, I'll say wild cards. While we were on the road, we drove through basically blizzards, almost tornadoes, like, so a little bit of everything,
Hail.
hail. So you got to kind of figure that in, because that's not something that you have to worry about when you sit in an office as much. Some of the weather elements was a challenge to try to navigate around that, I would say.
Yeah.
We almost got stranded in Denver. It was a blizzard that kind of just came out of nowhere.
Oh
We
no.
didn't know that was happening. So luckily, we pulled right up to where we needed to go, and we were locked in.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. That's good. The weather, I didn't even consider that, but it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, we just kind of left room. We left like buffer room around that, because I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, you never know. Like, it just randomly would
Mhm.
happen sometimes. So
Did you find any solutions in terms of the scheduling, like a certain method that really helped you stay on track for that?
We started using Dubsado. We have a scheduler in there, and that helped a ton because we could just give people a link to that. They would schedule like a time that was good for them to talk, and then it would automatically convert it to like whatever time zone we were in. Like as soon as we would log into it, it would recognize that we were in a different time zone, and then it would update the times for us. So that was really helpful because otherwise, I don't know how we would have done
yeah.
it. It would have been way too
And we
confusing.
only started doing that like halfway through. We signed up for the CRM halfway through our journey. We
Mhm.
were like, why didn't we do this years
I
ago? I
know
think it was we didn't have enough clients at the
it
time, I
was so
guess.
much better. And we're
Yeah.
like, we should have been doing this from day one. It's so great because it puts all the information in there, and like it keeps track of any time somebody schedules. You don't have to like hunt for their phone number or their email. It's really useful.
Yeah, it was so user friendly. I really liked it. You mentioned Dubsado as one of them, but do you have any other like favorite remote tools that you like to use?
Wave is a good one.
Wave.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wave is
For
our
accounting.
accounting. Yeah. So that's fully online. We don't have to go to banks and do all this stuff. So we can invoice all our clients from there. We do all of our expenses through there,
Like a good,
taxes, pretty much
yeah.
all
They
the
have a good
accounting. Yeah.
app too, so you can do it on your phone if you have to.
Mhm.
And then
Okay.
it'll notify you if somebody paid your invoice, or if you want to put in expenses, you can like scan the receipts through the app. It's really cool. And it's
Yeah.
all free. Like
Mhm.
it's a really great software.
And
Really?
then I think
Wow.
they just started doing checking. So now, if you want, you could be fully integrated into this one platform. You don't have to have like a
Separate bank.
standalone
Yeah.
bank or anything like that. So there's a
It
lot of
really
companies doing
expanded.
this. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Virtual Postmail was probably one of my favorites, because some clients would still send us checks. It's not ideal. So if we were on the road, I get a check. What I loved about the service was you guys would
You
just deposit
deposit
it
it.
for us like that. I used that several times. That
Hmm.
saved my butt, because I couldn't send that check to where I was, because we were on the road sometimes, that we would only be in places for a couple of days, maybe a week. I didn't want checks to just be floating around trying to find me everywhere. So
Yeah,
that was a really
that
good
was really
service. Yeah.
useful. And then just the fact that you guys scan the mail, and if it is junk mail, you just shred it so we're not getting a bunch of stuff that we don't need. It
Mhm.
was really useful.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I've definitely heard that the check depositing is one of the more popular features that we offer. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really useful. We
Mhm.
still use it now that we're home. People sometimes still send us checks, and then we
Oh,
just hit the
okay.
deposit, and in a couple of days we get it. It's awesome.
Oh, fantastic. I was curious, is there any specific communication channel or collaboration tool that you guys really like to use?
We're big on the G Suite stuff, so
G
we use
Suite.
like
Okay.
Google Meet a lot. We use Zoom a lot too, just depending on like what our clients prefer. And then
Mm-hmm.
we use a tool called FreeCamp for our project.
It's like base camp, yeah,
Yeah,
just
it's
like base
kind of
camp.
like yeah, that's a similar one, and you basically set up your project in there. You can assign tasks to people, and then you can put dates on those tasks. So basically, our clients can communicate through that instead of communicating through email, and then they can see exactly what we're working on every week. That's a useful tool.
Awesome. So I know you guys obviously have lowered your travel since COVID started, but have there been any other challenges that have arisen since the whole pandemic happened and maybe you had to make changes to Wicky Design and the way it operates?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, basically, we actually have been focusing a lot on helping our clients get through this because a lot of our clients are small business owners. So they were just as scared as everybody else that like they're not going to be in business. So we did a lot of work, like especially the first couple months, just like, okay, do you need to update your website to inform people like what's going on or sanitation practices or new guidelines that you have to follow? So we did a lot of work like that. We mentioned before, we're trying to focus more on education. So instead of the travel so much, because that was kind of like a big part of our business, was talking about the remote work. Since we weren't doing so much of that, we kind of shifted into doing more videos and posts on educating and helping small business owners get websites that really work for them and get a better online presence, because you don't know what's going to happen. This pandemic clearly let everybody know that a lot of things aren't guaranteed. So if you can have something online and in person, or have a storefront and an online presence, it's kind of like the way I think everybody should go now.
Yeah, and these past few months have been probably our busiest months ever. We've been running this for how long? 6, 7 years?
Yeah, almost 7 years.
Almost 7 years. And since the pandemic, that's the busiest we've ever been. I think it's, like she said, because people are taking it a lot more serious now. The online business and the online websites, that's mainly what we do, is a lot more demand now. And definitely a lot more like SEO work. I do SEO audits. So a lot of people are like, well, how can I get ranked in Google? I'm like, well, I can tell you some things that you can do to help.
Yeah, we've been doing, it's a more of that education portion. We did a lot before because we have experience in certain things where people would ask us questions. So we're trying to produce more content around educating and showing people that having a website doesn't have to be like super hard. You can have something that really is a tool for your business that will help your business versus something that like you have to rely on a developer or rely on somebody that like knows how to code and do all this stuff. We really preach being self-sufficient and really taking control of your marketing. So that's why we've been making these videos to show people you can do this, and like it's not going to be this crazy thing a lot of people think that it is.
What would you say was the biggest challenge that you ran into?
I think just finding time to like fit everything in, and the challenges of like being in lockdown, the uncertainty of it all. It was all pretty stressful for the first couple months. We literally like we came back and we didn't have a home. So we had to like figure all that out. And we went remote. We like fully committed. We sold our house. We sold basically everything.
Yeah, I think that might have been the biggest struggle, was like we had to rebuild, like literally rebuild everything, because we sold almost everything. So we had to buy a new computer desk and chairs. In the middle of all of this, I was building stuff while we're working, and
people kept reaching out saying they wanted websites done. So we were
I'm trying to build a desk at the same time.
Busy with work, and like
we're like
putting together IKEA furniture. It was just a mess.
It wasn't ideal. It's been nice to actually kind of reflect and look back at things. And it slowed us down a little bit, which is good.
So we have one final question. If you had one piece of advice for someone trying to launch their remote business, what would it be?
Don't plan too far in advance, I would say, because if you have everything written out, it's never going to go as planned. I mean, we had no idea that we're going to be in a pandemic. When we first started, we were thinking like, okay, like, should we plan like exactly where we're going to go? And we kind of started going down that route. And then we're like, maybe we should just take it kind of like maybe a month or two at a time versus trying to figure out a whole year, because things happen. So I would say don't try to be like so regimented, be more flexible and go with the flow, because you want to enjoy it. You don't want to be so stressed that like everything has to go to plan.
Because it doesn't at all. Like that's the one thing I can tell you is you can plan, but it will never go the way you want. We did loose planning, like she said, and pretty much nothing lined up. Everything was an issue. Not everything, but there would be issues along the way.
You know, just you could get stuck in traffic because of an accident and you don't end up somewhere. You know, it's something as simple as that.
It could be a triple.
Yeah.
My advice would be kind of like hers, just do it. Just try it. Oh, you can even do like a trial run is kind of what we did. If you want to see if you even like it, just try it for a week or two, a month. and then kind of go from there. We knew that we were going to like it, so we kind of just jumped in. We did a little trial, but I recommend trying to do a month maybe, just to see. You do get homesick. Some people it might affect more than others. Try it for a month, I would say, would be a good trial.
Yeah, like rent an Airbnb for a few weeks and see if you can handle doing it. I think that's good advice. Yeah, I would say plan for things to go as unplanned, It's going to happen and you just have to be okay with it because there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, definitely.
The one thing you could kind of plan would be like your work schedule. Like kind of stick to some sort of schedule. Like don't think that just because you're working remote that you can work overnight one night and the next day work in the morning. Like at least for us, it was like we kept almost a 9 to 5 while we were doing this. Yeah.
Except for the days that we were traveling, but keep things as close to what it would be if we were in an office because
your clients are
our clients are
like
most of them work normal hours, so you want to be accommodating. You don't want to be like, oh, I can only work from 9 at night to like 3 in the morning. That's not going to work for most people.
I love the advice. I think people who are looking to go remote will definitely keep that in mind. And I like that it's a little different. Like, don't plan. I feel like everyone's always telling you have a plan. That's definitely interesting to hear.
Because if you do that, you never get started. Trust me, you never get started because it's too many things to think about.
Yeah, like you could.
Very overwhelming.
There's so much information that you can look at and people that have done this and they'll tell you, one thing, but all that advice is great, but at the end of the day, your experience isn't going to be the exact same as theirs. You just have to do what feels right for you. And, for some people, it's going overseas for a year and doing that. For some people, it's doing what we did and just hopping from like place to place. That is better. So you just gotta kind of do what you feel is right for you.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Bye.